see, I'll be 30 in a couple of weeks, and been training. I guess you would say the focus of my training started about 17 years ago. Well, beginning was just mimicking my childhood heroes. I mean, everything from the cartoons like, you know, He-Man and Thundercats to the great martial arts movie masters, Bruce Lee, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Chuck Norris. And as time went on, the more acrobatic stuff came in, and I started looking at that going, I'd like to be able to do some of that more dynamic stuff as well as just punch and kick. Competition, I think, is an extremely valuable tool, because without competition, you never get that chance to go 100%, at least in martial arts. There's always the chance that you're holding back in your training. And I believe, honestly, the same thing is true for any kind of, you know, movement art, parkour, dance, whatever. Because in your training, you're focusing in a structured manner, and pushing yourself to that brink, to that 100% mark, is not always the best idea for your training. But every once in a while, you really need to push that 100% just to feel where you are. Well, I can say it in the best way through experience. I had a big ego and very low skill as a kid, and I had a big mouth. You know, that was all I had to back it up. I spent a lot of time taking flack from people. I was bullied, but not because it was unfair. I was bullied because I had a big mouth. Training taught me to hold that back. Training taught me to be strong within, so I didn't have to be necessarily faux strong without. That's a tough question. Well, first off the top would definitely be just the camaraderie. You know, gaining new friends and connections, networks. It's always welcome to find valuable people to be part of your life. Yes, another one would be perhaps the competition aspect. You're competing with not just yourself, but with your others. You see something that somebody else in your circle of friends can do, and you go, I want to be able to do that. It gives you something to work towards. One more thing, perhaps piggybacking off of that, would be definitely the extra set of eyes. When you're dealing with movement art, there's always room to improve. There's always room to improve. And if you're always by yourself, you're never going to have that outside set of eyes to critique you and say, hey, you did that well, but try this and it'll be a little bit better. Well, that's actually a fairly easy one, as parkour was cross-training in my martial arts background. Every system of movement brings you a different aspect, a different avenue. I mean, just within martial arts, there are thousands of styles, thousands of systems, and each one of those picks up a different piece because nobody has all of the puzzle. It's going to be the same thing with more, passive movement arts or artful styles, less combative ones. You're dealing with this idea that nothing can fit every piece of the puzzle. You've got to have these little pieces here and there. Strongman training fits well into build power as well as martial arts, building your functional capacity to deal with problems. With the parkour, dealing with your ability to pursue or retreat. It all works in unison. Movement art, plain and simple to me, is about the ability to go back to our roots in evolution and the concept of survival of the fittest. It's that fight or flight. The whole reason we move is because we couldn't just forage in the trees anymore. We had to get out and hunt. Well, getting out and hunting created this whole new set of problems. We was no longer just able to, pick the fruit and then run and hide when something big and scary came our way. We had to deal with things differently. The So to me, the whole concept of movement art is all about just being able to go back to our evolutionary roots, go back to that primal nature that's deep within all of us that we seem to neglect in the society today. I don't ever want to be so technologically advanced, so socially advanced that I, forget about my roots. Because if you can't go backwards, it's hard to go forwards. Absolutely, absolutely. The entirety of life is based off of this idea of exchange. Nothing is free. Nothing. I mean, even the things that we get without money require blood, sweat, and tears, or time and labor, or however you want to put it. Value is fluid, and value is up to those holding the goods or the skills and services and their contract with their consumers. But absolutely, I think you can put a monetary value on it. You can put a psychological or spiritual value on it. I actually train with somebody that works off of donations. They believe it's valuable. They believe they should be receiving something for it, but they're not hardlined about the money. They're in it for the community and for themselves, really. I mean, even as a teacher, you're building yourself. So the value I place from it is not even just me to you. It's you to me as well. There's a lot of value to be had. I happily look for value in other forms than just your standard commercial trade. But yes, value is easy to be found in any value. I would say the biggest inspiration for me is the fact that the last 3 fights I had, I've lost, which means that I've got a lot of room to improve. And I know you can't win them all. You can't. It's not possible. But losing gives you an insight into where your weaknesses are, and it tells you, all right, if you really want to do this, this is where you got to go. That's the biggest part of my inspiration, is the fact that I'm not the best, and I may never be the best, but it gives me something to shoot for. I suppose my current goal would definitely be to find that balance between the combative nature, the movement nature, and even to a degree the artful nature of what I do, and bring it into this this just flow of, I don't know, just positive energy for moving life forward, moving my own life forward, moving my friends' lives forward, and of course my students. But also being able to contribute something. I mean, we're here, we should contribute something, and if what I contribute is knowledge, then so be it. Lots of things. In martial arts, the earliest one, because I was so enamored with Jean-Claude Van Damme, was the spin kick. Being able to fluidly throw that spin kick to where it would be an effective kick, but yet still pretty and not throw myself off balance. That was then, but it was a goal. And what I did to work toward it was to just repeat and repeat and repeat, because honestly I was a kid, I didn't know much about training then. So it was just trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. To a degree that works. It takes a lot of time, but it works. Nowadays that I know quite a bit more about training in the human body and all that, for instance, because I've been doing parkour for such a short period of time in comparison to martial arts, I have trouble with some of the fluidity on, say, topping out on a wall. Being able to go from a full hang all the way to my feet on top of the wall is a certain grace to it, and that's not something I'd ever trained before. So it's a matter of breaking it down into steps and just progressing through piece by piece, focusing and progressing, focusing and progressing. That's an excellent question. I think there's pros and cons, both sides. On the good side, making it more mainstream is, one, it's going to make it more accepted. You're going to find more gyms, more crews. You're going to find a lot more people and spaces to practice with a little less discrimination. And I find that a huge, huge boon. On the opposite side, as we've seen with other art forms, as they become more mainstream and more commercialized, you get people who are not quite as dedicated wanting to jump in, and you have trainers that are willing to sacrifice their integrity for that, and they start pulling back the bar, and they lower the bar a little bit and a little bit. To a degree, that can be okay for scaling, but then if they never raise the bar back up, you end up with this watered down, empty fluff, and it's not worth a whole lot. So, yes and no. Been injured many, many times. Early on, if I got seriously injured, I threw my back out trying to do a butterfly kick once. I just babied it. Just did the whole rest thing and played it safe. These days, I try to work through it. I find what I can do and work around it. To give a good example, recently I just tore up my abs on a broad jump. Really savage broad jump, and I couldn't even do pull-ups for about a week. So I found other ways. I found there's certain angles that my abs were okay, and I practiced my martial arts through that. Practiced some of my fitness routines through that. Just had to exclude certain exercises for the strain and the recovery. So yeah, I mean these days it's really more about finding what I can do and keep on keeping on. If you ask my wife, she will tell you that I ignore her because I'm in pursuit of my training. It's not quite true. But to a very large degree, my art is my life, because I plan on it being my career, my sustenance. I plan on it being my roof over my head. Sure, there are lots of ways to make your living, but if I can live doing what I love, that's what I want. At the very least, I can go teach karate at the YMCA. But the fact is that I will never not be a part of the movement art community. Whether I transition from this into something else, who knows? Time will tell. I've got fitness ADD, but it's definitely always going to be a part of it. Parkour will always be there, at least in the foundation. Martial arts will always be there, at least in the foundation. So yeah, it's definitely my life.
So this kind of leads into the next thing. You said you have fitness ADD, so what do you think about conditioning and exercise specifically for your art form? Do you think it's necessary?
Oh, absolutely. First, in martial arts, there's a lot of people that will tell you that if your art is efficient enough, you don't have to be in good shape. To a point, that's true. But fights don't happen like movies. Fights happen like fights, and they can go on and on and on. And if you don't have durability and endurance and muscles that are conditioned to repeatedly deal the moves that you need to use, it's not going to work. It's the same thing using parkour in the functional sense. Like, I prefer it if I'm pursuing something, or if I am running away from something. If I've exhausted myself in the first 30 seconds and I'm still being pursued or still far behind, I'm just going to wimp out and the chase is over. I would absolutely believe conditioning is necessary, because your body has to be up to the challenge. I mean, your mind has to be up to the challenge too. I mean, conditioning is more than just physical. But yes, conditioning takes precedence over strength training. It takes precedence over long endurance cardio training. It takes precedence over that. Conditioning is specific to your art, and you have to, because your muscles, your bones, everything has to be built and reshaped for what you're going to do, for the stresses you're going to put on it. First thing, always focus on the technique, whatever I'm doing, because if my technique is wrong, I'm building bad habits, and if I build bad habits, I'm building myself towards injury or defeat. Not acceptable. The next thing I think about is going to be appropriate intensity level. Am I pushing myself to the point of utter failure and exhaustion? Because if so, I need to tailor it back just a hair. But am I being too light on myself? Because if I'm being too light on myself, I need to amp it up. The easiest thing for that is, one of my heroes stop and take a break here. No, he'd push on for 20 more seconds and then take a water break. So those are the two primary things that I focus on. Is definitely technique and intensity, appropriate intensity. I think another thing would just be staying positive throughout it, because your mind directly affects your body, and if you don't stay positive about what you're doing, if you start going, well, I'm just not getting this, I start getting frustrated and flabbergasted and turn into a walrus, you're just going to quit, and that's no good. And I've been there before. I mean, when I was young, there were times it was just, I'm just not getting this, I'm just not getting this. Threw it away. Sometimes you can just put things to the side and bring them back. Don't ever throw it away just because you're not getting it now. But yeah, I definitely consider that and try to focus on staying positive throughout and think, okay, my training partner hit me this time because my defense wasn't there. Not, my training partner hit me. This is just crap, and I'm done. And I've seen that happen too many times. Probably the things that I consciously think about. Anything else is purely subconscious. Practitioner first, teacher second. I've never considered myself a leader. I don't really think the leadership is a necessary part of my personality. It's not me to give orders. It's me to teach and train. But make no mistake, everything I do for me first. Because if I let myself fall down, I can't help anybody else. So practitioner first and always, because I have to build myself up. I can't ever ask my students and my friends to do something that I can't or won't do. So I have to build myself up to that Adonis level, just so they can reach, the level that I was at last. But then teacher, because I truly believe that I have a mindset for picking things apart and being able to reverse engineer things and break them down so people can understand them. I've been told many times by people I've helped, whether at work or through fitness or whatever the pursuit was, they thank me profusely for making them able to understand what we were talking about, whereas other people would just ramble on and just be like, why aren't you getting it? Well, this is why, because you didn't break it down. As far as how I'd like to be seen in the community, I'd like to be seen as both friend and teacher. I would like people to come to me for assistance, but I would also like people to be willing to show me a thing or two. I would like, to have the shoulder to lean on as well as be the shoulder to lean on. That's what I want. I want that duality of both friend and teacher.
All right, Solomon, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Soon I will be done with the trouble of this world.